Check, check, check. Check, check. Check, check.
Honored guests, graduates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Central European University, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our first ever graduation ceremony for undergraduate students. As well as being a wonderful occasion for students and their families, this is also a historic occasion for the university. My name is Tim Crane. I'm Pro-Rector for Teaching and Learning at CEU. Before I became Pro-Rector, I was a professor of philosophy here, but I was also involved, along with Dorit Geva, in the planning of the BA degrees in the university's move from Hungary to Austria. In Hungary, we were only a postgraduate university offering MAs and PhDs. In Austria, the university must have undergraduate programs too. So when planning our move to Austria, we also planned our BA programs. Our first students, some of whom are graduating today, the next will be graduating next year on the 4-year program, started at CEU in 2020. I was lucky enough to be one of their first professors, and teaching them was an invigorating and exciting experience. So there's a personal element here for me today to welcome our first cohort of graduating BA students at CEU. It's a real honor and a pleasure to be here. But as the saying goes, that's enough about me. We're here to celebrate our students. And our ceremony will start with some opening remarks from our President and Rector, Shalini Randeri.
Dear class of 2023, it's a great pleasure for me to share your joy on this important occasion, both for the CEU as an institution and especially for you as our very first cohort of undergraduates who have completed their bachelor's degrees at the CEU. We're gathered here to congratulate you on your success, on your achievements, and those also under trying circumstances. You began under COVID in the year that you started with us. Our university, as Tim has just reminded you, started as a graduate school, but I must admit, in retrospect, we're extremely fortunate that your education was forced on us. It was forced on us by the move to Vienna, and our faculty has responded to this challenge by expanding the university with 3 new innovative interdisciplinary undergraduate programs that have sought to marry the best traditions in British and American undergraduate education. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the faculty members who made these programs possible and who came together to orchestrate this really big change at the university quickly, efficiently, also under a very difficult set of circumstances, that of forced displacement from Budapest. For our times of dizzying changes, they rightly chose, I think, to impart education that draws on a vast array of social sciences and humanities and that fosters a keen sense of critical inquiry, more needed than ever today. As one of my predecessors at this university, Yehuda Elkanah, argued 15 years ago, no single discipline can deal on its own with the great problems humanity is facing. And he named 15 years ago climate change, hunger, poverty, public health, sustainability, and security. It would certainly be presumptuous to hope that we have taught you in your undergraduate 3 years to solve all of these problems. But we may have taught you a sensitivity to these problems, especially on a planetary scale, in a highly diverse classroom that allows you to see all of these challenges from a variety of geographical perspectives. I hope that we've also equipped you not only with some of the tools, but more importantly, with a mindset and the moral determination to strive towards solutions in your future educational trajectories, but also in your professional lives. So I bid farewell to you from CEU in the hope that we may welcome some of you back as graduate students, but also in the hope that you have learned to fulfill your potential as concerned citizens committed to the values of democratic, open, and humane societies. I would like to thank you for choosing CEU and enrolling in our brand new programs. This was an adventure for you, but it was also an adventure for us. You had to put up with the university in transition, finding its feet in a new city, and experimenting with new curricula. And for us, you are the youngest ever cohort that the faculty has taught. You were, and I think you still are, pioneers. And as all pioneers, you've had to endure some ordeals too. These are probably less to do, I think, with the demands and exigencies of your coursework than with the hardships of dealing with the pandemic, a long series of lockdowns, combined with mandatory shifts to virtual classes, which turned all our lives upside down during the last couple of years. Against these formidable odds, compounded by the continuing war of aggression against Ukraine, which has also cast a shadow on our community, you have succeeded in completing your degrees, and this deserves a really hearty applause. Well done. And despite having had to live through exceptional times, and as I said, some experimental times on our part as well, I'm sure you will nurture fond memories of your years with us. And I trust you will share these memories as well as your experience of your students' days in this wonderful city and in an intellectually exciting university with your circle of friends, with future colleagues, wherever you move on. Of course, as CEU graduates, you will also become proud, and I should hope, loyal members of our large and growing family of alumni. You will always find the CEU community to be a welcoming home for you, ready to extend support in good times, but also in difficult ones. I expect some of you will stay on with us and continue for a master's degree or return in the future. But as your alma mater, our doors always remain open to you. Many of you are preparing also to move elsewhere to pursue professional ambitions. And so let me end by wishing you all success and the very best of luck. May you fulfill your dreams. But do remind yourself of the duties and responsibilities that come with the diplomas you're about to receive from the Central European University. As you put to good use the knowledge and the values acquired during your years here, it will need a fine balancing act between a successful personal individual career and a strong commitment to the welfare of your fellow human beings. The struggle for universal justice begins anew every day, and your contribution to it will make your lives truly meaningful. I know that we can count on you, and of course, you can always count on us. As I said, for us, you're a very, very special group. It has a unique place in the history of our institution as our youngest and our first undergraduate cohort. So with that, farewell, but also a warm welcome back to the wider One CEU community. Congratulations and all the very best.
Thank you, Shalini. I would now like to invite Jeffrey Smith, who's the chair of our Board of Trustees, to give his commencement address.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Central European University, a warm welcome to my fellow trustees, to the CEU administration, faculty, the staff, families, friends, and of course, most importantly, the graduating class of 2023. Commencement speakers, at least in the United States, are well known for delivering pithy aphorisms to graduates to send them off into the world. For example, Apple's founder, Steve Jobs, famously advised the Stanford graduating class, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." At my daughter's college graduation a few weeks ago, the head of the Environmental Defense Fund told the graduation class, amongst other things, to make deliberate choices, don't drift. While these both seem like good pieces of advice, unfortunately, I don't have any such neatly wrapped phrases for you today. Instead, I want to mark your achievements and wish you all the best in your future endeavors by offering you three things: a list, a fact, and an object. So first, a list. David Hilbert's a very famous mathematician. Hilbert's spaces for you in the math scene. But he's actually most famous for a paper that he delivered in 1900 at a mathematics conference in Paris that was entitled Mathematical Problems. And in the paper was no new math. In fact, there was no math that he had done at all. It was a list. It was the list of the 10 most important math problems that Hilbert proposed needed to be solved in the next 100 years. A fact. ChatGPT, which some of the faculty is worried is going to ruin their ability to teach you to write, garnered 100 million users in 2 months. And if what you're thinking about this fact, 100 million users in 2 months, is that the pace at which new technologies are being widely adopted seems to be ever increasing, you're in fact correct. It took Netflix 10 years to reach 100 million users. Twitter did it in 5 years, Facebook in 4.5 years, WhatsApp in 3.5 years, TikTok in 9 months, and ChatGPT in 2 months. So it is a fact that new technologies are being invented and adopted at a rate never before seen in human history. And this is in large part because in order for growing societies to deal with the unavoidable limitation imposed by resource constraints, they must innovate to survive. Jeffrey West is a physicist at the Santa Fe Institute, and he explained this by saying, the only way to avoid stagnation from a shortage of resources is to change something. We call this an innovation cycle, and they are clearly apparent throughout history. There's the invention of the steam engine, the car, and the digital revolution. What these advances all have in common is that they allowed society to continue to grow. That's the good news. The bad news, though, is that in his theory of growth and innovation, innovation comes at a price. As the size of an economy expands, his mathematical equations predict that the time between these innovation cycles must decrease. We must innovate ever faster. And so while it took humans a long time to invent the steam engine, there was less time to get to the car and then less time still to get to the digital revolution. And so the end result is that the bigger the economy is, the quicker we must innovate in order to continue to grow, creating an infinite positive feedback loop, at least in theory. Finally, the object I would like you to leave you with today is a lighthouse. So we're ship owners, is what you're going to do after graduation. You're going to become a ship owner. And I'm a ship owner. And we sail by the same rocky shore. And periodically, our ships hit the rocks and we sink. So we have a problem. How do we solve this sinking ship problem? And so I come up with an innovative new technology called a lighthouse. And I come to you and I say, hey, I've got this solution to our problem. We're going to chip in and together we're going to build a lighthouse on the shore. Do you, in fact, give me any money to build the lighthouse? You do? We're in business together. Do you give me money? You're a very altruistic group. Many of you might choose not to give me money. Why? Because lighthouses, while there are many interesting things about them, have two particularly interesting elements. One is that they're non-rival. We can all consume the light, and I can't stop you on your ship sailing by from consuming the light. Sorry, that's the non-excludable bit. Can't stop you from sharing the light with me. But it's also non-rival. We can all use it, but we don't use it up. So those of you who had some economics may know that this is called a public good. Public goods are fantastic, but unfortunately, because we can free ride on them, a normal market economy tends to underproduce public goods. So we don't get enough lighthouses built on the shore. So maybe I was wrong. In fact, maybe I do have some pithy aphorisms for you after all. In fact, I have 3 of them. I charge you to make a list. Make a list of the most important problems of your time. Find out where they live and work on them. Some of the problems, as with David Hilbert's list, still haven't been solved, even though he propounded them in 1900. But the work done on them has had enormous spillover benefit. It has organized the mathematical community. It has inspired all sorts of new findings that have benefited all of us. And so while you may or may not solve the specific problem you set out to solve, your work will create enduring value if you choose the right problems to work upon. Second aphorism, engage the facts. Recognize that the world will rely on new innovation cycles to reach the solutions for these problems that you identify. But be wary of the costs of an ever-increasing rate of change. The social, cultural, political, and environmental impacts of an ever-increasing rate of change are all around us, and you've lived through many of them yourselves. And unfortunately, some of those impacts are negative. And so what must we do? And when I say we, I mean you. You must build lighthouses. One way to solve the problems and mitigate the costs of rapid innovation cycles is to build public goods that benefit both ourselves and others. Because these types of solutions do not arise naturally through the simple economics of supply and demand, we must consciously realize that we are all dependent on others for our well-being. And at least some of us must take the challenge of building the lighthouses necessary for the rest of us to avoid crashing on the rocky shore. Class of 2023, we look forward eagerly to watching you go forth and engage the world that is, but more importantly, to watching you help bring about a world that ought to be. Congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Our next speaker is Professor Andres Moles, who is the current Dean of the Undergraduate Studies.
Good morning. My heartfelt congratulations to all and each of you on this very important day. I remember 5 or 6 years ago, we were in Budapest, and we found out that in order to operate here in Vienna, we would need to develop undergrad education. So the news was received with a mixture of excitement, trepidation, and I have to say a bit of fear. The whole university came together to design and accredited BA programs. Today, we're celebrating the achievement that started that day. This is the first ever CEU BA graduation. We are grateful to you for having applied to CEU and for having spent 3 years with us. Everyone at CEU, and especially at the BA unit, are incredibly proud of you. But as Tim said, it's not about CEU, it's not about us, it's about you. So first I want to express my admiration because you managed to finish your degrees under exceedingly difficult circumstances. Very early in your studies, you endured a global pandemic that shattered the way in which we usually relate to one another. You spent many months in lockdowns, endless hours on Zoom, with very little human contact, if any. Despite these difficulties, you demonstrated resilience, strength, and discipline. These are commendable features. I am sure we all learned from these times the importance of solidarity, social contact, and patience. Graduation ceremonies celebrate not only the end of a cycle, but also new beginnings. As you go to the world, either to continue studies or to enter employment, please remember to embody the values of the open society that drive our university: democracy, toleration, inquisitiveness, freedom, and justice. The world today is facing severe challenges. There is a criminal war on our doorstep that threatens to reshape the world order. There are intolerance and reactionary attitudes rising in many parts of the world. And most importantly, we are facing the biggest challenge that humanity is facing, which is climate change. We hope, and we are also confident, that as you continue your path, you and your generation will make things better, at least much better than our generation has done so far. Needless to say, many people have helped you and contributed to the success we celebrate today. Your professors, many of which are sitting here today, program coordinators and staff, family and friends. I want to thank them for the unwavering support during these years. From today, you are no longer CEU students. Instead, you join our alumni network. You will find friends and friends of friends everywhere in the world. Last but not least, remember, the doors of this university will be always open to you. This is your home. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Andres. There are many people who have brought this project of graduating our first class to completion. And I will just mention here the wonderful BA office that we have: Tanya, Alsbeta, Matt, Lydia, and Zephyr. And also the program directors, Matthias Bogarts and Michael Dorsch, for the 3 programs who got there today. But I'd like to give a special thanks to another colleague who's sitting with us here on the stage, Professor Dorit Gever, who was the first Dean of Undergraduate Studies. Dorit is a professor in the Department of Sociology and Social Anthropology, as well as being the first Dean of Undergraduate Studies in CEU. Dorit was one of the people who designed CEU's undergraduate degrees as the university moved to Vienna. She played an absolutely key role in establishing CEU as an undergraduate teaching institution here in Vienna. And the university is deeply grateful to her for her efforts. I'd like to invite Dorit to give a few words.
Thank you, Tim, for the kind words. Dear class of 2023, I ask the rest of the audience to please forgive me, but it is truly a commencement speech for you, for our graduates. It's really an honor to be here and to speak as the former Dean of Undergraduate Studies. Now that we're all peers and I'm no longer your teacher, my words today will take a rather personal note, much more than had been in the past because I'm no longer your teacher. When I was about your age, I was just starting BA studies at Tel Aviv University, when I attended a peace rally in November 1995. I went with a new group of friends to hear Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin deliver a speech about his dreams for peace in the Middle East. Walking back home after the rally, my new friends and I started noticing that many radios and televisions were being blasted from people's homes, and there was an eerie silence in the street. We finally learned from another bypasser that minutes after giving the speech we had just witnessed, Rabin had exited the stage and had been shot by a gunman. News of his death came shortly thereafter. Days of national mourning followed. Aside from a political awakening, something else, however, happened that I carry with me to this day. We group of new friends became bound together, connected for life by this formative experience of finding each other during crisis. A few years later, I was near Washington Square in New York City on a beautiful September morning. I was then a PhD student at NYU at New York University and found myself watching the Twin Towers burn and collapse. Dazed and confused in the streets of New York City's Village, I eventually located other friends who had been in a similar situation. We found each other and we huddled. Fast forward many years, I won't say how many, although you can probably calculate. Living in Budapest as a CEU professor, like many in this room, and as you've already heard and know well, in the spring of 2017, we learned that CEU's programs would no longer, or academic programs would no longer be allowed to operate in Hungary for political reasons. And to enable saving the university and a move to Austria, we needed to create our first BA programs. You know this founding story well. And as you've also heard, a group of us worked to the brink of exhaustion in leading creation of a BA in Culture, Politics, and Society. And another group worked tirelessly on creating the BA in Politics, Philosophy, and Economics. And later, a third group worked to found the BA in Data Science and Society. I still have emails from that period when we would be emailing each other live back and forth at 3 a.m. because we were sleepless with worry. But it wasn't just us. Creation of the BA programs involved contributions by every single professor and administrator at CEU. It was absolutely outside anyone's contractual duties. It was a collective labor of love. In the midst of crisis, CEU we found each other as friends, and we all huddled. There will be hard experiences in your lives. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. Some will come from world events, some will be much more personal, and you never necessarily know when they're going to happen. In fact, usually you don't. You will need resilience. Some of that resilience will come from friendships and the personal commitments in which you invest. I sincerely hope that some of your CEU friends will play that role in your lives for many years to come. You have learned so much in the past 3 years, and we are so proud of you. But the most important lesson for life, I hope the entire CEU community has passed on to you, is that the greatest things and also resilience happens when you find your friends and huddle. Thank you and congratulations to the class of 2023.
Thank you, Dorit. I'd now like to welcome our student speakers, Fiona Bogensberger, Beatrice Bottura, Anna Fleiss-Monova, and Natasha Powell.
Hi, I'd like to start by welcoming our distinguished guests, members of the board, faculty, staff, families, friends, and of course, my fellow graduates. Firstly, congratulations to all my classmates. And secondly, thank you to all of you for being here to celebrate our graduation of the class of 2023 on the 23rd of June. For those who don't know me, my name is Natasha Powell. I'm a graduating student and I'm honored to stand here in front of you. On behalf of our graduating class. I am joined here today by Anna, Beatrice, and Fiona. You might be wondering why almost half of the graduating class is standing here in front of you, giving a speech. There, of course, is a perfectly good, reasonable explanation for this. We were gifted an impeccable sense of humor, and we didn't want you to miss out. And also, after working on our individual thesis, having a group project like this is a relief. So we decided to, instead of giving a speech, which seemed a bit bland for us, come up with a version of Spotify Wrapped for the class of 2023. So without any further ado, let us begin.
So as you know, we're 12 people, 11 are here with us, and we represent 8 different countries. Even though it can seem like a big number of these countries, one thing we have in common. 5 of those countries were surprisingly under the power of the Habsburg monarchy. Hungary, Italy, the UK, Slovenia, Norway, Germany, Austria, and the Czech Republic. Our programs, as you well aware are philosophy, politics, and economics, and culture, politics, and society. 3 of us are from CPS. 2 of us are majoring in sociology and anthropology, and 1 in nationalism studies and political science. 9 students are from PPE, out of which 2 people majored in philosophy and politics, 7 in economics, but also in politics. Politics simply indeed connects everyone.
So, not only are we, as we heard from the amazing speeches before, the first graduating BA cohort at CEU, but we also spent a very large portion of our studies during COVID and under lockdowns. In actual numbers, we had 43 courses at CEU with a very wide variety, ranging from history of film to understanding banking crises. And as courses were scheduled at around 2 hours per week in total, we had 1,032 hours of classes at CEU. Out of these 1,032 hours of classes, because of various COVID measures, 432 were held online, or 42%. So, as you can see, almost half of our classes were spent online. This was not always easy for our professors, but they were incredibly accommodating. They could switch to an online class in a matter of hours if one of us had a COVID case and called in the day in the morning and said, sorry, I can't come to class. When we did have classes in person, they followed under strict COVID guidelines. Because of also Austrian law regulations, for a period of time, we had to come in every day to see you with a PCR test. So in total, each person of our BA cohorts did around 75 PCR tests in our day times here. That's a lot of cotton swabs for us. Finally, and specifically, during the 6 weeks we had allocated for writing our bachelor thesis, our coffee consumption increased exponentially. I estimated that we, as a total, consumed around 600 coffees. So I think we single-handedly financed CEU's cafe.
Hello. As Fiona just mentioned, almost half of our degree was online. However, in spite of the hardships this entailed, Zoom classes did not stop us from learning interesting facts and useful skills. For instance, we repeatedly learned that correlation is not causation. We also learned how to understand the vocabulary of The Big Short, the award-winning movie directed by McKay describing how the 2008 financial crisis was triggered by a housing bubble in the US, which, in full honesty, I used to prepare my macroeconomics exam. Though I must admit, I wouldn't have fully understood the movie without my classmates' very patient explanations. A particularly fun thing we learned was how to calculate why people smoke. And yes, this was a final exam. Finally, we learned that the ethical dilemma behind the trolley problem has no solution, or that it's simply too frustrating. Online classes taught us all this and more. For instance, they provided us with the memory of our professors, contributing to some of our favorite quotes. Messi, not like the football player. Just a moment, I'm fighting with the whiteboard. And it's on a spectrum, used to describe just about anything. Throughout these 3 years, we also had numerous stimulating and sometimes heated discussions, both online and offline. Some controversial examples are whether nation states and citizenship should exist, whether we are all brains in a vat, whether we should study ancient philosophy, you know my answer, whether it is ethical to buy or sell an organ, and whether wealth taxes should exist, and if so, how they should work. It is quite obvious that we studied social sciences, isn't it? Overall, though topics such as globalization, the environment, populism, utility maximizing, the median voter theorem, and the prisoner dilemma were useful teachings, my classmates' stories and perspectives, always so innovative and diverse, have always been invaluable and will always be close to my heart.
Okay, thank you, Bebe. Now let's have a look at our most common student phrases, starting with the hunger question. Do you want to go to Villa? Big lifesaver, Nacho. Our favorite online class question. You're muted. Can you hear me? Our most used post-class question. Do you want to have a coffee break? We are very grateful for our cafeteria contributing to that. And finally, our most used in-class question regarding essays and papers. So what exactly counts towards the word count? Now, we would like to share some of our favorite characteristics for each of our graduating grade students from the past 3 years. Now, I would like to start with Ethan, who always gave us the best and constructive feedback. I would like to continue with Peter, who was our Zotter expert.
Continuing with Andre, who sadly could not make it today, explained to us many times that there is a difference between crypto and online currency and that they're exactly not funny money. Constantine, who always had a very fitting quote from a famous person at hand in every class discussion. Melanie, probably the most environmentally conscious for all of us, who traveled by bike every single day and even came today to the graduation with her bike. Fancy, a very grounded person who brought otherwise very heated discussions back to earth and calmed us and put us back together. Maike, who won an essay competition in political science, which I think we should all read, and you guys as well. Alfred, who gladly took up on the role of playing devil's advocate. And Beatrice, who always managed to argue for technocracy and as to be the best form of government, and she could not be swayed.
And last but not least, my fellow speakers, Anna, who chose the coolest thesis topic of all, Fiona, who never missed a chance to engage in class discussions, even now, and Nati, our most outstanding presenter, to whom I gladly pass on for the final word.
Thank you. To conclude, and on a more serious note, I would like to express our gratitude to the faculty, professors, and the BA team who have guided us through these past years. We are the first undergraduate class of CEU, and they helped make it very special and memorable. Along with the professors, we of course also have to thank the teaching assistants who helped make both ours and the professors' life a bit easier. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to the Academic Writing Centre and the Library staff for their invaluable contributions to our education. Their assistance, expertise, and resources have been vital in our academic growth, and they also contributed to us standing here. And while I cannot thank those people by name, I would like to say a special thank you to Judith and Robert, who taught our thesis writing seminar, for their guidance and unwavering support throughout this intricate process. Filled with a mixture of excitement, gratitude, and melancholy, just like our undergraduate years, this speech is nearly at its end. I'd like to offer one last thank you to my fellow graduates, from whom I've learned so much. We've made friendships that will hopefully last and help us in the future. And as we prepare to embark on the next chapter of our lives, I hope we take with us the knowledge, skills, and experience we have gained. Congratulations, class of 2023. We've seen you at CEU.
Thank you very much, Natasha, Fiona, Anna, and Beatrice. We will now have a short musical interlude from the Austrian Brass Consort, who will play a rondo by the French composer Jean-Joseph Moret. Thank you very much. We continue with the conferral of bachelor's degrees by the President and Rector. The Dean of Undergraduate Studies will call each candidate to step onto the stage and come forward to be greeted by the President and Rector and the Chairman of our Board of Trustees. Candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degrees in the class of 2023, please rise. And President and Rector, I now ask you to confer bachelor's degrees upon our students.
By the authority vested in me by the Charter and trustees of the Central European University, I now confer upon you your Bachelor of Arts degrees. Hearty congratulations to all of you once again.
Now the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts will be presented by the Dean of Undergraduate Studies, Professor Andres Moles.
Candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degrees, please step onto the stage and come forward as your names are called. Candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degrees in Culture, Politics, and Society are Ethan Danish, Canada. Anna Fleischmanova, Czech Republic. Peter Uivari, Hungary. Candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy, Politics, and Economics are Fiona Bogensberger, Austria. Beatrice Bottura, Italy. Maike Elsafer, Germany. Melanie Helm, Austria. Franziska Marfold, Austria. Natasha Powell, Hungary. Alfred Billum, Norway. And Konstantin von Lingen, Germany.
Today, we'd like to honor 2 graduating students who in their time at CEU have gone above and beyond in showing their dedication to the BA programs and to CEU. These students were always ready and willing to volunteer for open days, recruitment, webinars, advertising campaigns, as well as acting as student representatives for their programs. And they've left a lasting impact on the CEU undergraduate programs. We'd like to present Beatrice Bottura and Natasha Powell with the Undergraduate Outstanding Service to the Community Award. And now finally, we move to a special moment in the graduates' lives with a very peculiar ritual. Members of the class of 2023, please rise. As you know, one small ceremonial step remains. So in a moment, but not yet, I will ask you to move the tassel on your cap from the right side to the left side, slowly. This symbolic gesture formally identifies you as a university graduate. After that, I will count to 3, so you can throw your caps in the air together at the same time. And a photo will be taken. So now, please move your tassel to the left. And now I'll count to 3, so you can throw your cap. 1, 2, 3, now! Distinguished guests, colleagues, families and friends, please join me in applauding finally the new members of the Central Class of 2023 from the Central European University. And before we do our recessional procession, I'd like to invite you all to a reception in the adjoining room behind us. Our ceremony has now come to an end, and we're ready for the recessional.